What's up, tribe? Thank you for being here and welcome to my channel. Today's post is titled Cognition and Ignorance. And as it's a dialogue between Matias and his higher self, I'd be referring to Matias as me and to his higher self as I am. Me. When I entered the pyramid and you told me cognition and ignorance, the question arose as to why in the emotional week we would be dealing with issues that I relate more to the mind, to the spiritual. For me, those concepts are related to knowledge, to thought, and not to feelings. Why not talk about emotions and refer to this mental concept instead? I am. Why are you so linear in your thinking? I know that it is normal to assign mental issues to the spirit, everything that involves cognitive thinking. However, all avoid an obvious logic in all this. Me, which one? I am that the assimilation of knowledge is not given by a person's brain capacity, but by the ability of perception. The brain is only a decoder of information, but it reaches it through the pulses generated by the senses. Thus, feelings are the first processors of information. There is no apprehension when there's no emotion. Emotion is the key to apprehension, the key to education. It must be felt in order to understand. Me. So, an intelligent person needs the emotional capacity to know, to know. I am. Knowledge is not the same as wisdom. This we have discussed. Knowledge is the accumulation of data, and wisdom is the ability to understand the interconnectedness of that data. The knowledge then would be the points or nodes in a network, while the same network of connections would be the wisdom about said knowledge. Knowledge can accumulate, but wisdom needs to perceive it with more than one sense. You must be able to smell the numbers, touch the colors, hear the scents, taste the words, see a song. The interconnection of the senses combines wisdom, since data can be understood through information crossings, corroborations, through comparison. Something is real when more than one point of view confirms its existence. Cognition and ignorance have the same etymological root, gnosis. Gnosis means knowing. It is thought. It is the ability to interconnect different knowledge so that they have a logic to each other. He who awakens the ability to know, to connect information as a single network of wisdom, is known as set everything, nous, knowledge, entity, being. Cognition is that being able to think things as a whole, and on the contrary, in, outside, without. Nous, knowledge, being, will be the ignorant, that being that is unable to connect the parts to each other. Me. Cognition and ignorance, as they are the attributes that describe a being that understands the connectivity between things and a being that cannot see their relationship and only observes the parts separately. I am, and the ability to perceive things and integrate them into one is the feeling. The emotion that occurs when you absorb information is registered in the cells of your body. The feeling translates these pulses into information processed by the five senses, which is then taken to the brain to be stored and used accordingly. The body, even though you have separated it into levels, taking the head as the mental, the chest as the emotional, and the stomach, genitals, as the physical. In reality, they are all a network. They are not floors in a building, but an organic network interconnected. The mind is closely related to the emotion throughout the entire body, and the physical is what allows the interpretation of said emotion. And mind, through the impulses, and the physical is what allows the interpretation of said emotion and mind through the impulses generated by the senses. The soul, the emotional plane, then it becomes a born carrier of information between senses and mind. The process of unification and interpretation is carried out by the emotional plane. The soul, the emotional plane, then, it becomes a born carrier of information between senses and mind. The process of unification and interpretation is carried out by the emotional plane. Me, the soul, is the one who interprets the apprehension, not the mind. I am. The mind is empty much of the time to absorb information without judgment. The soul determines how that data reaches the spirit. The best way to connect data in the body is through energy impulses. It is through emotion. For this reason, the process of consciousness can take place by incorporating all intelligences, opening above all to emotional intelligence as one of the most important mechanisms to capture the interrelation of the parts. Me. Who do we call ignorant in our lives then? Because we usually call the ignorant who does not know. I am. Ignorant is anyone who does not know how to connect two thoughts with each other, who cannot correlate two concepts as part of the same reality. Ignorant is the one who continues in the struggle of the opposites, believing them separate. As we speak etymologically, ignorance does not have to do with not knowing. Ignorance has to do with not knowing how to connect what you know. He is not ignorant who has not yet discovered, because in that case he would be an apprentice, a child in the process of learning. Ignorant is he who, even having the possibility in his hands, decides not to unite the parties because he considers the fight easier than unity. For this reason, ignorance is not a mental concept, but a purely emotional concept, since the one who ignores is the one who cannot live stable in his being, who does not know how to use his own energy, who lives by polarities. Me, so I understand that what we must learn is that everyone in our lives is a bit ignorant. I am, that's right, due to the need to protect yourself from the outside world, survive. That's the body's natural defense mechanism. The body's natural defense mechanism causes us to separate things. The universe has been separating, and living beings maintain that reaction in their lives. Despite the reproduction in which two individuals come together to create another, something similar to unity. They continue to diversify, multiply, and there is more and more instead of less. The universe tends to ignorance, to the separation of things. Therefore, it is something natural, but at the moment in which consciousness is taken, the process of interconnectivity cannot be denied. That despite the incessant separation of things, everyone is undoubtedly connected. There arises the need for education as a motor for the cognitive, to awaken the gnosis, the wisdom of things. Me. And for that, emotion is necessary? I am sure. So what child learns boring? In schools it is believed that children learn through play, but this is not the case. It is not children who learn for fun. It is humans. The human needs fun. He needs play. He needs stories that excite him to assimilate. Me. I understand something with this. We have made the cognitive serious, sober, melancholic, serene, and too mental, to the point where it became unbearably boring and schematic. Our mind cannot maintain cognitive attention for more than 45 minutes, taking into account 15 minutes intervals in which the brain disconnects to reconnect again. In other words, the 45 minutes, at least 3 minutes were lost trying to regain attention. When we have fun, it is different, because the brain must be attentive all the time to new things that may happen. The 5 senses are alert. I am, and for this, there's no age. Education, decorating itself with the cognitive aspects, has done the opposite of what was expected. Lose people's attention. Me, which leads our minds to constantly seek out nonsense, to watch silly videos, laughs, to try to have something amuse us every 15 minutes, giving that feeling of collective ignorance that we are living today. In other words, ignorance cannot be fought with cognition. I am, exactly. Ignorance can only be fought with an overcoming ignorance, play, fun. The cognitive process occurs when the individual discovers his ability to understand by himself. And when he does so through play, he has not realized that he was integrating knowledge. That is why we like books, movies, adventures, magic. Because there, the brain feels useful and happy. The soul moves, circulates, flows. Me, you have to turn the cognitive process into a fun game for the ignorant. So they have fun uniting the parts, connecting what was divided, not as a weight or obligation to acquire knowledge, but because of the will to feel happiness in the process of finding out. I am welcome to conscious ignorance that leads to cognition. The soul is the greatest ignorant that we know, who is afraid to face joining the emotions, to observe their traumas, their stories, the people they faced or separated, is the greatest denier, and in turn, the greatest recipient of information. Therefore, take care of your soul. Make it feel free, fun, flexible, capable of feeling and perceiving more. Make it feel the knowledge of the world so that it can become aware of what it has denied. Me, the game, creating stories, mythology, the path of the hero, everything that the cognitive aspect has classified as opium of the ignorant were actually tools to keep people searching for the answers, seeing themselves capable of one day finding them, become the protagonists of them. I am. The only problem is that they were never allowed to become that protagonist. Eliminating the stories, the parts are like the breadcrumbs that must be followed in a labyrinth so as not to get lost. If you consider who follows the crumbs ignorant, because you have already known the map of labyrinth, all you do is destroy their ability to assimilate the labyrinth, to discover it and transcend it for themselves. That is why education does not work, because they deliver all the whole bread, and nobody understands where it came from or why. The path of the ignorant must be a path of attraction, of entertainment, that leads him to discover his cognitive qualities. And there he will awaken his true understanding. Me, we live in one of the greatest times of ignorance, because before there were ignorant people who did not have access to information. But today, we live in a world of ignorant people who deny the information they can access. I am, as I said, this has happened because at the same time that an attempt was made to eliminate the ignorant, the inner child of each human, who is the greatest seeker of answers, was destroyed. And with the child destroyed, the soul and its capacity were repressed. To assimilate a world that denied fun in learning is a world that will seek fun elsewhere. Me, I understand. The same solution created the problem. We must re-nurture the joy of this soul for a truly knowing and wise humanity. I am, well, the only way for a wise man to be born is to let his inner child live free.